Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Kesubos Daf Ayin Vav. We begin on the 7th line from the top of the Amud. Okay, so for a moment, let's go back to our Mishnah, where the Tana taught us as follows. A fellow marries an Isha, he discovers a mumin, some blemishes, some physical deficiencies. The question is, when did these mumin develop? Before engagement, in which case it was a mistaken transaction, mekachtos. I don't want to pay the ksuba, I want my kedushin money back. Or perhaps, did these things develop later on, after engagement? In which case, it's his issue. The husband's, that is. In which case, if he wants to separate, he must pay the ksuba and let her hold on to the kedushin money. We seem to have a contradiction within the Mishnah. In the Reisha, in the first case, where the mumin were discovered while she was still at her father's place, the Mishnah says, in that case, father has to prove his claim against the husband. Whereas in the Seifa, in part 2 of the Mishnah, where the mumin were discovered post-marriage, when she's already in her husband's place, in that case, husband has to prove his case if he wants to absolve himself of these ksuba payments. He'll have to prove that the mumin were there from before. How do we reconcile these two parts of the Mishnah? So we had several explanations yesterday. First one of which was that, well, actually, these two parts of the Mishnah reflect different opinions. There is Rabbi Gamliel's opinion and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel says, when there is a cheskas haguf, which is something in the Isha's favor, look, she was born without these mumen. These weren't, there at birth. So she has a chazaka. We assume that her mum-free condition continued until, as long as possible, until most recently, when the mumin came about, perhaps already under his care, under the husband's care. So she has a cheskas haguf that proves her case. And this is opposed by the cheskas mamin, in the husband's favor. That's my money, I want to hold on to it. Rabbi Gamliel says, cheskas haguf overrides. And therefore, in the Mishnah, whether the mumin were discovered there or there, it doesn't matter. She wins because she has a cheskas haguf, which indicates that the mumin developed much later on in the game, in which case she is in the right. The other part of the Mishnah reflects Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. His cheskas mammon overrides her cheskas haguf, and therefore he is patur from payment, irrespective of location, of where the mumin were discovered, whether still back at her father's place or post-marriage. That was one pshat. Rava had a pshat. Well, it depends where the mum was discovered. Kan nimtza kan hayu, discovered here, we assume it was developed here. So it's post-marriage, we assume that they relate to the husband. It happened recently. And he owes her the ksuba payment. Discovered back at home, well, it's been there for a while. It was there still before engagement, in which case she came into engagement with a woman undisclosed. So he's in the right. That was Rava's pshat. Here comes the third pshat. So we're holding at the 7th line from the top. Rav Ashi Omar, I'll tell you the difference between the first and the second part of the Mishnah. Reisha, in the first case, Mana la'aba biyadcha, was speaking about a na'ara, who was merely engaged at that point, in which case the father is entitled to the ksuba payment. Sure, I have a cheskas haguf which says, well, the moment happened recently, after engagement, give my father the ksuba payment. Answer is, Mana la'aba biyadcha, my father has a mana claim against you, and as Rashi explains, the Isha's cheskas haguf cannot be used to support the father's claim. I can't use somebody else's cheskas haguf to support my claim. And therefore the father cannot base his claim on his daughter's cheskas haguf. So unless he proves his case, he can't claim that money. V'seif, as opposed to the next case of the Mishnah, it was post-marriage. She is claiming ksuba payment from her husband directly. Mana li biyadcha. The mana is owed to me. I have a money claim with you. And I have a cheskas haguf that supports my claim, so I win. Here comes a kasha on Rav Ashi. Moide Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir, who's the Tana of our Mishnah, would agree in the following case. If the women that were discovered are things that could theoretically have been there already beforehand. They came along from her father to her husband. And now we discover the mum post-marriage. When did it happen? It's a question of timing. Who has to prove the case? Who has to prove the story? Father. Shala av lahavi raya. Va'amai, why? Look, we're speaking post-marriage. It's a direct claim from husband against the wife. Va'amai, mana li biyadchu. You owe me the money, and I have a cheskas haguf that proves that it happened recently. Answer is, hachb'mayaskinan biyaseras. The Brisa here speaks about women that could come from Aviyah to Bala. We're not speaking that they could have come. Typical mum. We're not sure when it developed. We're speaking biyaseras. She has an extra finger. She was born with it. It's been there from day one. So in this case, certainly the husband is in the right. It's been there from way before engagement. It's a pre-existing condition. So of course he's pater from ksuba. You should have disclosed this. Asks the Gemara, well, then Yiseras, if we're speaking about an extra finger, my raya maisi. So what's the point of the father proving anything? What's there to prove? It's been there since day one. The answer is raya the ra v'nefayis. Who? The raya is that, I know the husband noticed it and he was okay with it. That's what he's going to prove. Continues the Gemara with a big chiddush. Amar Ravid Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel tells us hamachlif para b'chamar. We know there's something called kinyan chalipin. There's Reuven and Shimon. Suppose I'm Reuven and you're Shimon. I own a chamar. I'm a donkey owner. You own a para, a cow. We'd like to make a swap. I'll take your para, you'll take my chamar. The halacha is, as soon as I, the donkey owner, does a kinyan on your para, automatically the chamar becomes yours. Hamachlef para b'chamar. They're switching a para with a chamar. U'moshach bala chamar as a para, and the former donkey owner does a kinyan meshicha, he leads the chamar into his property, it makes it his. And by doing so, there's a simultaneous swap. The chamar becomes yours. Problem is, you, Shimon, the former bala par, by the time you got a chance to get a hold of the chamar, by the time you did that, the donkey was no longer alive. Question is, when did he die? Before the kinyan? In which case the kinyan never, happens. You keep your para, I keep my dead chamar. Or did it happen after the kinyan? After I had already taken possession of your para, in which case it's your issue. It's your chamar that died. So who's going to... the onus is on whom? Who has to prove and verify and confirm the details of the story? Answer, ala bala chamar lahavi raya. Myself, the former donkey owner, I have to prove that my chamar was alive and well at that moment that I did mashiach on your para. Now, let's take a step back and think about all the, the factors in this equation. This is a chiddush of Shmuel that even though I'm already holding on to your para, you want to take it back, I'm holding it already. Number two, where did the suffix develop? In your possession, so to speak, because I already have the para, the chamar is sort of already in your place. So the suffix happened by you. Number three, I have a chazaka a sort of cheskas haguf. The chamer was alive and well all throughout. We assume he maintained that status continuously. He was alive until, most recently, until very recently. So chances are he was alive when I made that Mashiach on your para. Still, despite all these factors in my favor, I have to prove my case. Why? Says Tosfos, Cheskas Mara Kama. You have been the previous owner of that para. We assume your ownership is maintained until proven otherwise. It's a chiddush of Shmuel. So unless I can prove my case, I give you back the para. V'tana, Tuna, we have a raya from our Tana, from our Mishnah, with the Kala, with the Mumin. Tuna is our Tana. V'tana, Tuna, our Tana taught us in his Mishnah that in fact this halacha is correct and true. Kala, our Mishnah of the Kala. Now the Gemara will embark on a journey to discover, try to figure out where in this Mishnah do we have any inkling of an indication that this halacha with the para and the chamar is true and correct. Hi Kala, which part of the Mishnah of Kala? Ilay of Kala, the base avia. Let's go back to the first part of the Mishnah. The Kala is still, at her father's place. We discover some mumin there. What does the Mishnah say? You want to get the Kesubos, all that. So the father has to prove that in fact the mum happened, after engagement, post-engagement. So that will be a raya that I have to prove that the chamor died later. In order to, hold on to my para, I have to prove that the chamor was alive at that moment when we made that swap, and he only died later, in which case it's your loss. We're going to bring a raya from the halacha and the Mishnah. In order for a father to collect the Kesubos, he has to prove his case. Asks the Gemara, how can you compare the two? Midame, that's not a comparison. Hasam maisi avrayu umapik. Sure, there the father is obligated to prove his case because he's trying to extract money, take the Kesubos payment. That's hamoitzi michaverai olavaraya. When you extract payment, when you collect, you have to prove your case. Hacha maisi bala chamoy raya umaikim. But here, myself, the bala chamor, the former donkey owner, you're telling me I have to prove my case in order to be moikim, to just hold on to the part which I already have? I'm not trying to take something from you. I'm just trying to maintain what I have. How could you compare the two cases? Who's to say that I have the chiyuv? Who's to say the onus is on me to prove the story? We can't compare it to our Mishnah. So how then are we going to see this halacha in our Mishnah? Amar Abba, I'll tell you how. Kala bebeis chomia. Let's drop to the second case of the Mishnah. So the Kala is already in her in-law's home, meaning post-marriage. They discover a mumin. What does the Mishnah say? In this case, the husband has to prove his case. And as Rashi points out, we are going according to Shitas Rabban Gamliel, that since the Isha has a cheskas haguf to back up her claim, chances are I was mum free until very recently, so this is not a pre-existing condition. So she wins, irrespective of where the mum was found, whether post-marriage in her husband's place or even pre-marriage in her father's place. It doesn't matter. Cheskas haguf tips the scale in her favor. And the husband, in order for him to win, he has to prove his case. He has to prove that this was a pre-existing condition. And that's the only way he can hold on to the Kesubos money. So I'm not trying to extract money. He's trying to maintain his hold on his funds. And what does the Mishnah say? The onus is on him. And that's a good raya to our halacha of the machlif para b'chamar. The only way I can hold on to the para is if I prove I confirm the details of the story. So again, the comparison is because in the Mishnah, even if the suffix was discovered at her parents' place. It doesn't matter. The husband will have to prove and support his claim. He has to bring a raya. And again, we're not speaking about collecting. We're speaking about holding on to his money. Likewise in our case. Asks the Gemara, you can't compare. It's not really a comparison. Awesome. Baal. Maisi raya. Sure, over there, we obligate the husband to prove his case. Because he's trying to disrupt the chazaka that the father has. Remember, there's a cheskas haguf in her favor. So sure, in that case, she and her father wins unless the husband can disprove that because of the chazakas haguf supporting her. As opposed to our case, where I'm the balachamor and you're compelling me to bring a raya, I have to prove to maintain my chazaka. Why would I be obligated to do that? Here, the chazaka is in my favor. We explained this before because the chamar was alive all along. We can assume that status maintains itself. Cheskas haguf, cheskas chai. Let's assume he died more recently than not. So why would I have to prove that? Why wouldn't it be just assumed? So the bottom line is we don't have really a comparison and a raya from our Mishnah to Shmuel's Chiddush. Omar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, I'll tell you where you can find this halacha in our Mishnah. Which halacha? Shmuel's halacha. Even though there are so many factors in my favor, I will have to prove my case in order to hold on to this para, which I would like to buy. Where do we see this in the Mishnah? Kala bevei savia. Take a look at the first part of the Mishnah. You discover the woman while she was still, her father's place. Father has to prove the story. He has to prove that the mum was not a pre-existing, phenomenon. It was a most recent development. And according to this approach, now we're going to be going with Rabbi Yeshua's shita, a different approach than Rabbi Gamliel, which was the previous approach. Rabbi Yeshua holds that when we have a cheskas haguf of the isha, opposed by the cheskas mammon of the husband wants to hold on to his money, right? He has a right to hold on to his money. It's called cheskas mammon. And that's countered by the cheskas haguf of the isha. Look, she was free of mummin until now. Let's assume that her mum-free condition, lasted until most recently. So it's a recent development. It was not a pre-existing condition. So who wins in this type of situation? Rabbi Yeshua maintains the cheskas mammon of the husband prevails, as we see in the first part of the Mishnah. You discover the mum when she's still bebeis avia. When did it happen? Well, father has to prove his case, and this halacha would apply as well if the mum was discovered post-marriage in her husband's place. Doesn't matter. Now, we're not necessarily speaking that the father wants the ksuba money. That's one thing he wants, but he also wants to hold on to the kiddushin money. Remember, the husband paid. He laid out money for kiddushin, a ring, whatever it is. He paid for it. He'd like his money back. You misled me into this marriage. Ula kiddushin. We're speaking about the father holding on to kiddushin money. It's not like he's trying to take out money. He's trying to hold on to funds. And still, what does the Mishnah say? Despite the fact that he has a cheskas haguf on his side, he has the money in his hands already. And also, where did the suffix develop? Where did they discover the mum? Perhaps in her husband's place. So the suffix happened in your place, not even in my place. You have three factors in his favor. Still, the Mishnah maintains that father has to prove his case. And this is just like a side point. Don't think this question of whether the kiddushin goes back to the husband is only aliba de man Omar, according to that opinion that holds kiddushin, the funds expended on the kiddushin, lavle tibun nitnu. Tibun is a lashon of sinking and drowning. So the kiddushin money isn't really sunk, isn't committed to the cause. Rashi says, meaning, let's say Reuven was mekadosh an isha. He paid out for the kiddushin and he passed away. Can he get his money back? So lavle tibun nitnu says it's not sunk, it's not committed, at all cost. It goes back to the husband or to his family. So when we speak about the money perhaps going back to the husband, it isn't necessarily related to that shita. Ella afilu l'man d'Omar, even according to the other shita, who holds kiddushin the tibun nitnu typically. The money paid for Kedushin is sunk. That's it. It's committed. No backtracking on that. But that's only in a typical situation. Hani Mili, that's only applicable by Kiddushi Vadai. An absolute Kiddushin, a successful Kiddushin. So even though the husband passes away during engagement, he's not entitled to his money back. Aval Kiddushi Tos, but if it was a mistaken Kiddushin, such as in our case, we discovered something wrong with the transaction to begin with, it was a mum, he was misled. In that case, he certainly deserves his money back. So what does the Mishnah say? Unless the father can support his claim, if he brings a raya, sure, he can hold on to the money. Eloi, but otherwise, if he can't support his claim, then what? That these women have recently developed. So if he can't prove that, loy, then he's not in the right. He's in the wrong. He has to repay the Kiddushin money. There's a right to Shmuel. If you want to hold on to something, you have to prove your case. Meis vehe comes a kash. You discover a pin, a needle, in the wall, the oivi, the thickness of the beis hakoises, this digestive compartment, which is designed like a glass, like a cup. So this compartment has a thick wall. You find a pin stuck inside. Mitzad echad kshera. It's only on the inside, so it's fine. Mishnei tzdadim treifa. But if it's going through and through, then you know it's a serious internal wound, in which case the animal is not kosher. Nimtza le'akeret dam. You find a little bit of blood on the needle. B'yadua shul lifnei shchita. Then you know that it happened before it was slaughtered. Obviously, we're speaking about a slaughtered animal, right? So you find a needle inside. If it's a serious puncture, it's a problem. Provided you find some blood on it. So you know what happened before shchita. So at the point of shchita, he was already a treifa. You don't find any trace of dam on the needle. B'yadua shulach shchita. Then you know with certainty that it happened after shchita, and there's no concern because at the point of shchita, he was still okay. Now, I'm a butcher. I purchased that animal from you. I want my money back. So let's say I purchased it 2 days before the shechita. Question: when did this animal suffer this condition, this wound? Was it in your possession, or already in my possession? Hugla piamakas. How do we know? So we take a look at the sort of the wound there, right? The puncture. If it's already congealed, it takes 3 days for that to happen. Now we know with certainty that it occurred at least 3 days before shchita, which gives it enough time to develop, to scab. So, excuse me, if I purchased the animal only a day or two before shchita, then we know with certainty that the animal was already a treifa. Before it was sold to me, I get my money back. But if we don't have the scab on the maka, so we're not sure when it happened. I purchased the animal. I paid for it. I want my money back. You sold me a treifa. I'm the one that's being moitzi from you. Oliver, I have to prove my case. Here comes the Gemara. So we assume the tabach, the butcher, me the buyer, had already paid for the animal. If the tabach already gave the money, paid for the animal, and I want my money back, he has to prove his case, and that allows him to get his money back. This is inconsistent with Shmuel. Why? I have to prove? You have to prove. V'amai. Why is this so? Baal behema laisi raya v'noikim. You, the Baal behema, the seller, should be the one that has to prove that indeed the treifa status happened, after the sale took place. And this would allow you to keep your money. Just as Shmuel tells us in his case, with the machlef para b'chamar, although there are so many factors in my favor, I have to prove that I can hold on to these funds here as well. Even though there are so many factors in the seller's favor. Number one, he already has the money. Number two, there's a chazaka. This animal was alive and well and healthy until, very recently. Let's assume the tarfus, the wound, developed very recently, right before the shechita, after it's been sold. Right, so that's another chazaka. Number 3, where was the suffix discovered? Where did I find the needle? When the animal was already in my care, in my place. Still, according to Shmuel, you would have to prove your case to hold on to the money. Answers the Gemara, you're right. You thought that I paid for the animal. No, I never paid for it. I bought it on credit. And in fact, that's exactly what the halacha is saying here. That the animal, the former animal owner, the seller, would have to prove the timing of this wound in order to collect on his sale. Exactly like Shmuel. But the tabach, the butcher, the buyer, had not yet paid for the animal. Asks the Gemara, my pascha, is that an absolute, scenario? Why would the Brisa, assume that we understand that the money, the animal has not yet been paid for? Who's to say we're speaking about such a case? Is that the way things work? You always buy on credit? So it's a little bit, problematic to interpret the Brisa to be speaking about that specific case. So basically, we'll assume it's a standard case where I paid for it, and the only way I can get the money back is if I prove my case, which is not consistent with Shmuel. According to Shmuel, the seller should be proving his case. Ella rather, says the Gemara, you're right, we're going to backtrack from the entire halacha of Shmuel, or at least the current version of that halacha. Ella ki asa Rami bar Cheskel. When Rami bar Cheskel came, Amar, he tells us, Loi tetzaisinu, don't pay attention, don't accept lahani klali, all these formulas, all these halachas, the kail, Yehuda Achid, my brother Yehuda, summarized Mishmei de Shmuel in the name of Shmuel. That version of that halacha is incorrect. Ella Hachi Amar Shmuel, I'll tell you the correct version of Shmuel's halacha. Kol shen noilad safek b'reshusay. It's a pretty straightforward formula applicable to all situations. Kol shen noilad safek b'reshusay, olav haraya. You know who has to prove? The one where the suffix was discovered. If the suffix was discovered in my place, I have to prove the story. Discovered in your place, you have to verify the facts. The onus is on the Baal HaSuffix. And therefore, in the case of the exchange between the Parah and the Chamar, guess what? I already have the Parah. The Chamar is sort of in your place now. You have to prove your story. And likewise in the case of the treifa animal, who has to prove, who has to verify the facts of the story? Myself, the buyer, the tabach. Why? Because where was the suffix discovered? In my place. So the onus is on me. Vitana tunakala, in fact, the Tana in our Mishnah taught us the same. When he presented the halach of the kala or the mumen. Why? So Rashi says, how do we see this in our Mishnah? Rashi says he's working with Rav's pshat in the Mishnah. It all depends on where the mum was discovered. In the first case of the Mishnah, it was discovered back home. The father is obligated to prove to verify the facts. Discovered post-marriage at her husband's place, he's the one that has to prove his claim. We're going to have a kasha from the halacha of the animal. The Gemara is assuming that he bought it on credit, and that's going to present a difficulty. Discovered the machat and the animal. Not sure when it happened. Pre-sale, post-sale. What does the halacha say? That has to prove the case. Who's proving what? Let's assume that the buyer, the butcher, had not yet paid for the animal. It was purchased on credit. Baal behema boi l'suyiraya umapik. So who has to bring the raya? We're assuming you haven't paid yet. So the seller, the Baal behema, is the one that has to prove how it happened. This would allow him to be mapik to extract the funds to get paid for the animal. That's what the Gemara is assuming now. It wasn't yet paid for, and the seller is the one who has to support his claim, who has to bring a raya. Why? This is totally inconsistent with Shmuel's formula. Why? V'amai sveika b'shus tabach is yalad. Where did the suffix develop? Where did we discover that suffix? B'shus tabach, post sale, in the hands of the tabach, of the buyer, of the butcher. He should be the one that has to bring a raya, not the seller. The answer is, you're right. We're not speaking that it was purchased on credit. The Yav Tabach Demei, of course he paid for it. The Tabach fully paid for the animal. He wants his money back. You have to bring a raya, because the suffix developed in your place. Well, my Pascha, what makes you think that we're so sure that he already paid for it? Why did the Bryce assume that we know this? Yeah, because that's the way of the land, the stum of the milsa. The assumption is kama deloy yoiv inish zuzi. Before a person pays for the item, lo yoiv inish chiyusa, the seller would not hand over the animal. So we're assuming that he already paid for it, and the buyer is the one that's trying to get his money back. In order to win, you have to prove your case. Back to the Mishnah. There's a question of timing. When did the mum develop? Chachamim tell us, look, if it's something that you can hide, so we don't know when it happened. But if it's something big, gully, clearly visible and apparent, you can't say I didn't know about it. So it's pretty clear that he was mekabel, he was interested in the Isha, despite the fact that she had a mum. Says the Gemara, Amar of Nachman v'nichpa. There's a certain illness, a weakness called nichpa. A person collapses from time to time. So that type of condition is called kimuman shebeseser dam. It's as though it's hidden and concealed. Because, as Rashi says, she's careful not to go out in the street and be seen, in this situation. So there's no way that he could know about it. V'hani mili de kavila izman. That only applies when there's a set, time for this situation to hit her. So then she's careful to avoid public exposure. There's no way that he can know about it. Avaloi kavile. But let's say it just comes randomly, without a kviyas. There's no way for her to guard herself from being seen in this situation. In this case, it's known and revealed to all, so he knows about it as well. The fact that he married her indicates that he's not really particular and he's willing to accept upon himself this type of situation. He can't claim otherwise. Okay, let's just recap today's daf. We had the Mishnah, right, where we had an Isha who was married, where Mumin was discovered. The question is, when did the Mumin come about? Was it a pre-existing condition, in which case she should have disclosed her condition to him, in which case he can say, Mekach tos, I want the Kesuba to remain by me, I want to get back my Kedushin, or did it happen post-engagement, in which case it's his issue. We had a Reisha, we had a Seifa. In the Reisha, it would appear the father is the one that has to prove his case, and the Seifa, the husband, has to prove his case. We had 3 pshat. First pshat is, it all depends on Rabbi Gamliel or Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel says, Cheskas Haguf of the Isha prevails. Rabbi Yeshua says, Cheskas Moment of the husband prevails. We have Rabbi who says, it all depends on location. Timing depends on location. The mum was discovered when she was still at her father's, and he has to prove. Discovered at her husband's, he has to prove. Today we added a third pshat, Rabbi Ashi. If she's still at her father's, which means she's still engaged, father is claiming the ksuba payment because she's a nara, father is the one entitled to that money, he can't utilize her cheskas haguf. So he has to prove the timing of the woman. In the second case, she's already married, she's the one claiming the ksuba payment directly from the husband, she can utilize her cheskas haguf in her favor. We had the Rabbi ben Shmuel, who described the story of a machlef par b'chamar, and according to the final version of the Gemara, it all depends on where the suffix was discovered. So in this case, when I took the para, and that automatically made the chamar yours, so now it's sort of the chamar in your possession, in your place, in your rishus, under your care. Now we find the dead chamar, you're the one that has to prove what happened. And we ended with the halacha that mumin shebegoli is something which we assume the husband was okay with. An example of mumin shebegoli is this nichba situation, which comes haphazardly, in which case it's a known and a publicly known situation. You married her, you accepted it upon yourself, you can't claim otherwise. B'suras Tovos and refuah shalema to all those that need a refuah. B'meher v'yameinu amen.